Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
I'm Seth.
I'm Jenna.
And welcoming back today, we are Mr. Stu Burns. I don't know why I had to say that like Yoda.
Welcoming back today we are.
Welcome back, Stu.
Strong we are in the force today, Bill.
And how are you today, Stu?
Well, I am.
Not
Young
will
Padawan.
I am. That's me. Yeah.
Cedric.
So Stu is going to be talking a little bit about the Hastings Bigfoot Museum a little later on in the show. But first, we kind of wanted to update people on our recent trip to Teslacon, which happened, 2 weeks ago, I think. And we got back from that. And we had a lot of fun there. We went up there with 6 friends from here, as well as actually a number of other folks that are in the Steampunk group here in Omaha, Nebraska, and a bunch of folks from the Iowa Steampunk group as well. And it was interesting. It's the first large con that we'd been to since the pandemic got started. And I think Eric Larson, who runs Teslacon, did a very good job of making everyone feel safe, doing the right things. They had mask mandates. They also had a requirement that you had to show your vaccination card for admission. If you didn't have a vaccination card, then you had to show a proof of a negative COVID test within, I think the last 24 hours or something, right?
No, it's like 72 hours.
Okay. So, mask requirement throughout the whole con, whether you're in the vendor space or you're in meeting rooms or just even walking around the hotel, you leave your hotel room, you got to mask up. So it was very good. It was a little bit strange doing it with masks and seeing everybody wear masks. They had, yeah.
I
The
like
beard
the
is
beard
great.
mask.
People got
We're looking at a
creative with it.
picture for our podcast listeners. We're looking at a picture of several people in costume, and someone's got a mask that looks just
Like
like
a
a beard. It's fantastic.
People
Mhm.
got very creative with it.
I was going to ask how many people integrated the masks into their costumes.
There were quite a few that did. There were a lot of people that had like those plague doctor
Mhm.
masks that they were wearing. I'm trying to think what else there was. A lot of people that had incorporated it into their costumes in different ways. And then, of course, I'd say probably 50% of the people were just wearing, regular face masks. So
Yeah.
it was about half and half, I'd say, the people that went to the extra work to incorporate the masks into their outfit. Now they
Well-
did. What's that, Linda?
A lot of these people make their own costumes anyway. So to make the mask to like match the costume, well, it was like a piece of cake for them. So
Yeah. And the theme of this year's Teslacon was War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells. And in order to sort of tie in the whole reason for wearing masks, there was this idea that these Martians had come and they had brought with them this red weed, not like, the green weed that maybe Seth likes and Jenna
what?
and
I
Linda.
don't know what you're talking about.
What?
What?
I am a law-abiding citizen, sir.
Of
In
course.
Nebraska.
These are
Yes.
spurious accusations, and I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Good
Yeah.
day, sir. Good
Good
day.
So anyway, the red weed, if you got infected with it, you I don't know, went crazy and became a maniacal murderer or something, maybe, huh?
But doesn't that still kind of work? Because ultimately what stops the monsters in the War of the Worlds, isn't this the one where they get Earth's bacteria and it
Yes,
causes them to die?
right.
So I feel like that still works, because you would think too there'd be a risk of exposure to them in the beginning.
Yes, right. And
So that's awesome.
you know, anytime you have another species introduced into a different environment, you've got cross-contamination risks, right? Because they can bring viruses with them, as well as then be susceptible to viruses that we have. So yeah, it was good. The vendor room was great. They didn't have quite as many vendors as they've had in the past, and a lot of that was due to some vendors not wanting to participate with the vaccination card requirements or the mask mandates.
Mask wearing. Yeah.
So those
That's
folks weren't
cool.
there, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah. For
Mhm.
those who are listening, we're saying that's cool because Linda just flashed another pretty awesome costume. We know there are those who like to listen to us, but this is definitely an episode we would encourage you to also maybe go back and check out again afterward if you're only able to listen, because the detail and the artwork on these costumes are amazing.
yeah. And there was one woman there that was really good. She was like a wind-up robot, so she had like a big key on her back, and she would just be kind of like slumped over, you know, just standing there, and somebody'd come up and grab her key and turn her key, wind it up, and then the key would wind down, and then she'd start coming up and doing this clockwork thing, and she had this whole routine that she'd go through, and costume was really amazing too. So, and there was one person that had a costume that was like it was designed to look like one of the Martian machines. So she had like basically 3 legs, and she was like up on stilts, and it was all designed into this big costume where they looked like big Martian walker legs, and it was pretty impressive. I think you're muted, Seth.
I said, wow.
Oh, all
Sorry,
right.
I turned on my mute because there are 3 kittens in the background currently going ham on a paper bag.
Ah,
I think they're done now, though, so I can unmute myself.
I
all
love
right.
it.
I just wanted to make a note because I think it's kind of, I believe originally the red weed was thought to, in Wells's book, was thought to be part of the reason Mars had a red appearance.
Oh, really? I didn't know red weed was mentioned in his book. I thought I had read that, but I don't. Oh, you know what? Maybe I never read the War of the Worlds book. I know I've read a lot of H.G. Wells, and maybe I haven't read that.
Yeah. No, the red weed was in the original. Was in War of the. Yeah, it was in the book. It was the novel.
Okay.
And it dies off for the same reasons the Martians do.
Okay.
I don't think they know if it was intentional or not to bring the red weed, but
Yeah, or if it just came with them.
yeah.
We appear to have lost Stu.
He might just be taking a cough or something.
No, he's
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there he
Yeah.
is.
I was looking for a book I was going to use later in the podcast, and I just decided you didn't need to see me doing that.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry.
Good.
Good radio there.
We
Good
thought
radio.
for a minute that Stu had been kidnapped by Sasquatch, and in order to keep him from revealing any crucial information.
I
I
can
thought-
neither confirm nor deny that report.
So I don't know, Linda, do we have anything else about Teslacon we want to talk about specifically? I mean, it's a good con. They had a lot of good panels. I'm trying to remember one that was fun to go in.
I just have a number of pictures I'm going to keep going through of these costumes are just freaking amazing.
All right.
Would
did
you say, even though it was weird that people had to wear the mask,
Yeah.
that the community, to be around the community again, was that
Oh, yeah.
pretty
Oh my
positive?
God. Everybody said it was so worth it, you know.
So worth it for everybody to get back together again, and even sitting in panels and stuff and listening to people give talks on different things was pretty awesome. And they had like a lot of fun little gaming panels. Normally on the Saturday night of the con, they usually have like two different dances. One happens first, and that's called like the steerage ball. And you just come as you are. And then later on, they have a more formal, elegant ball. But they didn't do that this year because they didn't think having a bunch of, jumping around, sweating, heavily breathing people
in a small room
in a pandemic was a good idea. So instead, what they did is they had some performance groups come in, and they staged a reenactment of H.G. Wells' radio drama, The War of the Worlds. And they did it up on a stage live, and they had, they were doing the sound effects all themselves and everything. And that was very impressive. So that was kind of fun this year.
These people have been like sewing for 2 years. So if you're amazed at some of these costumes, they have had 2 years to work on them.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I gotta get this one. So one of the things that they do is they have it's immersive, right? And again, it couldn't be as immersive this year as they wanted it to be, but this one's particularly funny. So they had like an army of red Martian fighters. And
Nice.
so these guys are the ones that go out and fight the Martians. It's
hilarious. This was Bobbin's Royal Guard.
The Royal Guard. Right.
Yeah. And so they ran around, battling the Martians. And, you kind of see that they've got these red glasses on, but what you don't really see is that above the glasses, they actually had super bright red LEDs. And it was supposed to be sort of like the equivalent of night vision goggles, except they were red vision goggles to make the Martians easier to identify. And so, yeah, they were pretty funny to watch them running around the con.
Did you guys run into Adam Whitledge, the guest of honor?
I did not.
We looked for him and did not find him.
Well, I actually saw him teaching a number of panels,
right?
But they conflicted with other panels that Linda and I were going to. And by the time we got out, we'd go by the room and he'd be gone. And I wasn't sure what he looked like to find him. And each day I was like, okay, where is Adam? And I'm like, oh shit, he's teaching this panel at the same time we're going to go do a tintype. All right, well, when we get done with that tintype, we'll go there and find him. And then we get done with the tintype and we'd like, okay, well, his room's not going to get out for like another 15 minutes. We got enough time to go to the vendor room. And then we get lost in the vendor room a half hour go by, and I'm like, God damn, Adam's gone.
That's a rabbit hole you do not want to go down.
Right. So
this was particularly good.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that was pretty serious.
So question, it's an immersive experience.
Yep.
Obviously there's a lot of people you're showing pictures, a lot of people who put a lot of effort. So maybe someone who's interested in steampunk would want to attend, but they're like, I don't have any costumes or anything like that. Are those people still welcome?
Oh, absolutely.
Still feel comfortable walking around?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this year we went, we took Zach Nelson, who's been on this show once or twice before. And he's never done anything steampunk in his life. Never been to a con, never gone to a photographic shoot, nothing.
Didn't know what to expect.
And so I just sent him some links to, there's an online shop where you can buy a lot of steampunk type outfits called the Steampunk Emporium. So I sent him a link to that. And so he ordered a vest and I think a shirt or two. And that's pretty much
wore his regular street shirt. Remember, I was making fun
of
his
yeah.
shirt?
And so that's pretty much what he wore, figuring that he would get there and then go into the vendor room and finish outfitting himself. And that's kind of what he did. And he had a great time. He said he really wants to come back next year. They had tickets on sale for next year's con, and we all went and got our tickets, but I can't remember Zach had gotten a call from one of his clients. They were having some issues with the website. And so he'd run back up to his room to get that sorted out. And the rest of us got in line and got our tickets for next year. And when we got together with Zach, he's like, well, damn, I got to get my ticket. Now I got to go get in line. And we were always running around, do something. And then before you know it, it's like they've closed down the ticket sale booth for next year. And he's like, well, God damn, I didn't get my ticket. So now he's got to wait till they go on sale in January. But yeah, he bought like this leather shoulder thing. You might find a picture of it, Linda,
I'm looking
on my Facebook page.
There's just so many. I mean, the costumes are just so amazing.
Yeah, so he was pretty happy with that. And he bought like a sword, I think, as well, and I don't know, some other stuff. Oh, some gauntlet gloves, and then also our friend Audie. He had never done it before, and we took him for the first time about 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it was the Wild West, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's gone back
it
every year, and so he kind of dresses like a Victorian Midwestern gunslinger. So he's got this black hat and this long black,
here's one of the tripod creatures.
Yeah, this is not the one that I was referring to though, but this was a pretty good one. And she had that. It was really tough to keep it
level
as she was going, because she had, you can see there's a PVC pipe there. It looks like it's coming down on her head, but it's actually going to a harness on her back.
Yeah.
And then that last leg just kind of drug along behind her. But the whole thing was a little bit flimsy, didn't really hold up very well. But the other one we saw where the lady was actually on stilts, that was awesome.
I'm kind of at the mercy of this, whoever this is got really good pictures.
So were they like employees of the con then, going around and interacting with people, or
some? Yeah.
Yeah, some, like the Red Guard. And normally he has a lot more characters, but there were a lot of actors that he normally worked with for this kind of thing that weren't really comfortable coming into a big group setting, especially going into the holidays. So they said, they were going to have to pass this year. So, there wasn't quite that level of
it was definitely more
activity, but it was really fun getting together with people. And
this is the wind-up girl.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she had the big. So yeah, if she were to turn around, you'd see this big, clock winding handle key. And I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of that.
Yeah, see if you can, because I'm just working.
Yeah, you'll have to fill in the space while I'm looking though.
Well, I mean, I think overall it's great that you guys had a great time, and that it not only was it still a community experience that all of us nerds are missing in cons. Like I just told Aaron the other day, I miss cons, but it's still something that even the new person who's been wanting to dip their toes a long time, even though it's a huge con with all of these advanced cosplayers and costume designers, they can still go in regular street clothes and enjoy it.
Right. Here it is. I found it. Let me
let me stop sharing.
Send this to myself so I can share it.
Yeah, that was not at all what I envisioned. That was a really cool take on the winding mechanism that she had going there. That was really creative.
Yeah, that was the red weed killer. I'm not sure that's the one Bill was talking about. There are so many people at this thing, and there are so many. I've been to Planet Con, and I haven't seen the intricate detail that I see all the time at Teslacon. It's just nuts.
So speaking of other cool things or interesting things that people may want to go out and do some adventuring on, Stu, you came to tell us about the Bigfoot Museum here in Hastings, correct?
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, we could talk about that for a bit. If you're not familiar with it, the Nebraska Tourism Commission has this program they do every year called the Nebraska Passport, which runs roughly from May through September, that summer as broadly defined, where you go around and they name between 70 and 80 sites that they want you to try and get out and see, and you get kind of nominal prizes. Back when I was working for Wellness Councils of America, there was a slogan that employees will do anything for a t-shirt. Well, that was kind of what they're pushing. T-shirt, license plate holder, stuff like that are types of prizes they give. And so I was out with some friends, just looking, doing our thing on the passport one day. Really, the main focus of that trip was actually the Willa Cather sites in Red Cloud, because the young woman was writing an essay on Cather, and she had a master's in travel writing, so she was like, "Hey, let's knock out something in my expertise." So we did all the Cather sites and everything. It was wonderful. And on the way back, frankly, I took a wrong turn. I was trying to bypass state fair traffic, and I ended up going right into the heart of where I didn't want to be, but that's okay. And you're driving down the road and you see something out of the corner of your eye and you're like, did I just see what I think I just saw? And so I yelled at these guys, did you just see that? And of course they're both on their phones. They're like, what are you talking about, Stu? So I'm like, I'm not letting this go. So I double back, and there by the side of the road in Hastings, Nebraska is a sign saying Bigfoot Museum. And of course I'm thinking that this has just got to be some prankster, somebody putting a sign out there to say something silly. There are these Bigfoot cutouts, all over the place. There's one up by the chalk mine, by the Happy Jack chalk mine in Scotia, Nebraska, for crying out loud. I'm like, well, they can't be serious. So I pull into this little driveway they have, and yeah, they're serious. Okay, they got like this Bigfoot mobile. What do you call those? You have a bookmobile. They have like a Bigfoot mobile.
Oh, God.
They've got it's this reasonably large house that's been converted into a Bigfoot museum and a little appurtenant structure that's basically the annex to the Bigfoot Museum. And so we saw that, but of course it was after hours. We're like, you got to be kidding me. So we're coming back to this. And so then we took off, and then that was in 2019. So then COVID hit. And we're like, oh shoot, who knows when I'm going to come back here? But the passport came up, and sure enough, the Bigfoot Museum was on the passport for 2020. So me and my buddy Andy, who looks enough like me, everybody thinks that Andy's my child. Okay.
Oh no.
We decided we're going to take a little excursion out to the western part of the state, and we happened into the Bigfoot Museum. And I had I'd seen her stuff online, but I really didn't know what to expect. And the structure of it, I believe the woman who runs it still lives in the home, but about half of it has been converted into this Bigfoot Museum.
Oh my God.
Along with, then there's there's another, bigger than a shed, but it's like another outbuilding out there that has like some Bigfoot art and whatnot. And it's an interesting collection. Not entirely what you'd expect. The first thing I think most people expect when they come into a Bigfoot museum is to see the plaster casts of the feet.
Yeah.
Hence the name Bigfoot.
Right.
And I don't even remember seeing any plaster casts of feet, but they had. I swear to God, this is true. And Linda, if you go out in my Facebook and just search, yes, there it is, right there. These are plaster casts of hands of the Bigfoot.
Big hands.
Yes. These are Bigfoot hands. Oh my God, is that? Yeah. So not exactly what you were expecting.
No, I'd expect casts of feet.
Yes, yeah, but
and
no.
Right
we're like,
hand
no.
and thumb knuckle print.
Yep. Yeah. In Nebraska, we go the extra mile. Everybody, you can see feet anywhere. In Nebraska, you're going to see hands by gum.
So
maybe big hands is a relative of Bigfoot.
Were these ostensibly taken in Nebraska, or are they just?
Most of them are not. I'm not sure of any of these that actually were taken in Nebraska. But yes, as you're seeing now, this is a map of the Bigfoot sightings in Nebraska.
There's a whole lot going on around Lincoln.
Yes.
Bigfoot gets
It has
around.
nothing to do with the college population and drug use at all.
Nothing at all. No. Yeah, I remember back when I was in college and took psychology of skepticism with Don Jensen. And that's when crop circles were just starting to flare up, and there really wasn't an official explanation for them yet. And Don said, "Well, Stu, it's perhaps not a coincidence. They tend to congregate around areas of major universities in Britain."
Yeah.
Oh, I think I see what you're saying.
So
Aside from the drug use issue, universities are also full of students freshly freed from their homes who potentially have access to Bigfoot outfits
Right.
and sometimes
Yes,
a costuming department.
Yes, when I was teaching Western Civ, our master teacher said that the back in the Middle Ages, the place for the misfits was usually the monastery. That's where you could go to kind of if you didn't want to try to work in the commercial system or the feudal system, the monastery is a good place for the misfits in society. And he surmised that in the 21st century, that's more the university is kind of where they go now. You kind of put them in there.
Too funny.
But yeah, I know people that I went to college with. We called them lifers back then, and 30 years later, I see them on Facebook, and they're still kind of orbiting the university. So yeah, they're definitely the type of people who would probably, theorize about the Bigfoot. But yeah, they have a reconstructed Bigfoot lair there with some Bigfoot trophies that he would collect in there. Bigfoot likes shiny things. Bigfoot apparently has a bit of ADHD.
I deny any accusations that you're making, Stu.
Some people have traces of Neanderthal in their DNA. Seth has traces of Bigfoot.
That's right.
And can't imagine.
Yeah.
Perhaps the greatest revelation, certainly from a science fiction fantasy fandom that I found at the Bigfoot Museum, was this idea. And they have a whole wall of these. That one of Bigfoot's hobbies is that when horses are loosed in Bigfoot's area, Bigfoot likes to braid their tails to make them more attractive. That's Bigfoot's hobby is braiding horses' tails. So I'm left with the inescapable conclusion that Bigfoot is a brony.
You heard it here first on Galactic Driftwood.
Yeah.
Bigfoot is a brony.
Is absolutely 100% a brony. Yes. Who apparently does have some substance abuse problems. There is a little collection. I swear to God, this is absolutely true. Of Alcoholics Anonymous badges and pins over in one corner of the
Bigfoot collected.
I don't think so. I can't confirm.
Okay.
They're supposed to be his?
No. My guide just said that someone who's a contributor to the museum had these both Alcoholics Anonymous pins and some memorabilia from Russia. They decided they needed to exhibit somewhere, and the Bigfoot Museum was as good a place as any. And so that's over in like a far corner. And they may have removed that by now. I'm not sure, but I was a little surprised to see that. So
yeah,
and I'd like to be the group leader at the
Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah,
the AA where Bigfoot is a member.
It helps to say that. It helps to stay that Alcoholics Anonymous, Seth, if you're not drinking.
Right.
Aww.
That's sort of yes.
Yeah.
So Stu, did they get into it all the fact that Indigenous folklore has had Bigfoot as a part of their culture for long before this place was settled?
Oh, to degree, yes. I don't recall that being. This has been a year now. I don't recall that being a major factor in the museum. It's certainly not what this is much more of a more recent sightings and from Roger Patterson on forward type of culture. One older exhibit they have there that they've put together is this idea that in Russia they were actually able to keep a large primate captive for some time, and through means that they don't elaborate upon, she ended up having children. One of whom survived for a number of years, and there are pictures of him and interviews with him. If I'll to step out of the facetiousness for just a moment, speaking as a folklorist, what probably happened is you have someone who had multiple birth defects, and to explain to him, they said, well, he's all hairy and he's not quite mentally with us,
and he's got big.
He possibly has larger feet than average. Yes, so I think most legends are formed that way. You see something that either you can't explain or you want to add some meaning to, and so that's you form you can back form from that, work backwards.
So I wonder though if that has any root in the fact that there was a lot of genetic experimentation in Russia after World War II, because the whole, Stalin's desire to rebuild the Red Army with 8-man super warriors. So there was some, like, I'm looking at the overview because it's been a while since I've read this, but there was some rumors that a Russian physiologist was trying to crossbreed humans with anthropoid. I think that's how you'd say that.
There's that is not a rumor. That was actually a fairly well-known anthropologist, and he was. I think it was even before World War II. I'm trying to bring it up now. I know they call it the word they used was a human.
Yeah, the human chimp hybridization program in the first place. They can learn from a sort of tale of ethical misconduct. Like, it basically became one of those stories like, this is why we have ethics around science.
One of them, where he was trying to crossbreed and it wasn't going real well. But
and Russia's just like, nuh-uh.
It went a lot further than you might expect. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So that and there's apparently they've never stopped genetic tweaking and chemical uses, as we found with the Sochi Olympics when it came full blown out that everybody except the ice skaters was doped by the state.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. But I'm not sure the performance enhancing drugs of that scandal has extended to Bigfoot genetics, but
no, but I'm just saying that's something they've always
know.
Done. They've been interested in the human body and how far can you push it.
We'll find out at the next Olympics when their basketball team comes out and it's just all Teen Wolf.
But getting back to the indigenous perspective of Bigfoot, that is something that I guess is not discussed outside the community as much, but you really internally kind of accepted among a lot more members of tribal groups than you would think.
Yeah, it's reasonably widespread. I know, even in the Great Plains, amongst the Omaha Nation, yes. There's a figure called Ichthyaniki. And Ichthyaniki is one of the three major, at least according to Roger Welsh's work, is one of the three major tricksters of the Omaha tradition. There's, coyote, of course, because coyotes everywhere. But rabbit, it seems, is more active than coyote. And then there's Ichthyaniki, and Ichthyaniki is a little more hapless than most of your usual tricksters. But the best way I can probably define him is he sounds a lot like a Sasquatch. Welsh does not use that term. Because he said it's an oversimplification to call him a monkey because he's much more human than that. Although when you show people of the Omaha pictures of chimpanzees, they're like, yes, that's Ichthyaniki, that's him right there. So yeah, he seems a little bit like a Sasquatch, even out here in on the Great Plains. Yeah, there is a local tradition.
There was a member of the Omaha tribe on Steve Rinella's Meat Eater podcast, Sacred Seed, and they talked about a lot of different things on this podcast. So I'd say you could skip the first 30 minutes. It's episode 281, Sacred Seeds. But not only, his name's Taylor Keene, and he's a professor at Creighton. So not only did he get into Bigfoot, and I want to be careful because that's one of their things. So I don't know how much is appropriate to discuss. But he also got into sacred geometry in Indigenous history and how far back it goes in the structures that they found in the United States and the wealth of heritage here. Mm. So I highly recommend people, if they're more interested in hearing more about those connections between Bigfoot and Indigenous lore, at least on the Omaha side, they could listen to that podcast.
Mm-hmm. It's a good recommendation. Yeah. Did Taylor get into the ideas that the Omaha are descended from the former residents of Cahokia out in eastern St. Louis?
Not explicitly, but he did talk about where their name comes from. And, he did get into St. Louis period about the structures there and how they definitely need more exploration, but the constellation alignment and how a lot of that would have aligned with certain periods of the year, kind of like Stonehenge, where the sun would shine through various areas. It's pretty interesting. He's been working on a book on this that has been approved for publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Nifty.
Now, Stu, maybe you can attest to this or not, but my understanding of there's one difference between all the Bigfoot sightings around the world versus Bigfoot as he's known in Russia, and that is in Russia, Bigfoot hunts you.
Ah, dearie. Yeah, well, just to be technical, the name of the Russian Bigfoot is the Almas is the name of
the Almas, Almas.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
so if you're ever looking for Russian Bigfoot, that's what you got going. Yeah, that it's I think it's just sort of a natural archetype. But and it's the darndest thing because I remember reading at one point, and I cannot seem to run down a real hard text on this. The idea that the original Pacific Northwest nations' tales of Sasquatch really weren't really about a creature out in the woods. It was really more about just some guy who had decided to live apart from the people and was living a solitary life. So there's probably some amalgamation there that we are not entirely taking into account.
Would you say that that's definitely still different than the Wendigo, which was generally associated with people thought to be people who became basically cannibals out in the wild, losing their shit?
Yeah. I think Wendigo is more like a vampire. That's something that we forget because Western fiction has sort of made these into like eternal monsters, that just keep coming back and they persevere for years and these eternal enemies. Creatures like the Wendigo and the vampire, they were always meant to be transitory. That was a problem to be solved.
Yeah.
So if there was a vampire attacking your people, you killed it, and that was it. It's a problem to be solved. And the same thing with the Wendigo. That was an extremely unfortunate circumstance that you took care of.
Right. That was outside the community. He was a threat to the whole because they'd selfishly gone off seeking health and victory, or a lot of different things, like focus on the self versus focus on the people.
I would not try to conjoin those two, though. I think there's entirely different dynamic going on.
So, Stu, I can understand if you go back in time a little bit, people having experiences maybe when they're out in the woods alone, where they maybe think they see something and they attribute it to this Bigfoot character type of thing, or like you said, where somebody has some birth defects and they go backward and attribute it to this person, the wife or whatever, having relations with a Bigfoot creature. But I'm curious as to if you have any insight into like this woman in Hastings that started the Bigfoot Museum. What is the fascination in our modern day and age where there are people that are definitely still into this belief in Bigfoot, even though we've never seen anything like that, and we've got all this modern technology, and people have all of these sophisticated cameras in their pockets now wherever they go, and yet all we have are these very blurry and non-evidentiary photographs that people claim to be Bigfoot.
Well, I think there's an idea of, it goes to a lot of what you see with conspiracy theories and with a number of paranormal and pseudoscientific things where we want to have knowledge that no one else has. You want to latch onto something that is still an untold secret. As far as this museum presents it, I don't want to discourage anyone from going because obviously this is trippy as heck. And I think that probably the best way I could get anyone to go out there is say, oh, whatever you do, don't ever go to this place. So there you are. But if you've ever read Dirt Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, this concept of the electric monk whose job is to just believe everything, that's kind of what you're going to see at the Bigfoot Museum. If you're looking for something like Jeffrey Meldrum's approach from University of Idaho, you have very credible anthropologist who studies Bigfoot. critically, that's probably not the place you want to go. This is the place for people who want to believe.
Okay. Well, as you went through the museum, was there any piece of evidence provided there that made you think, this?
I'm gonna, with the exception of the braided horsetails, probably. Yeah, the braided horsetails definitely made you go, Yeah, that's what I'm carrying forth. If there's one significant way in which this museum has altered my conception of the reality and the lore around this primate, these stories that go back, to the pre-Columbian times that were worked upon by Theodore Roosevelt of all people. It is that Bigfoot is, in my mind, irrevocably a brony.
And on that note,
well, I had one thing that I wanted to touch on, and that I think there's a lot of room for Bigfoot here in the Midwest.
Oh God. Well, I watched a little bit of Bigfoot Girl the other night.
this is
Bigfoot what?
Of what now?
No, it's one of the Bigfoot experts is Bigfoot Girl who out in the Northwest.
This is a TV show?
It's like a documentary from like 2019, I think.
It's an OnlyFans.
No, I didn't watch I didn't watch the whole thing. I just was wondering what was still going on. And it was just kind of fun because they have a couple of experts, and one of them keeps going. It's not really about finding Bigfoot. It's about the journey.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they had one of the guys going. This looks like, because they went camping out in the Northwest. He goes, this looks like an ordinary campsite, but really it's a bunch of people looking for Bigfoot. So there seemed to be some, in their minds anyway, the very fact that they could add Bigfoot to something that was really just an ordinary campsite, because we know.
Well,
but it makes it feel like they've lifted themselves up to something higher.
Right.
I was going to say that there's definitely room for Bigfoot out here in the Midwest, because I mean, the mental image of Bigfoot just like walking out of a cornfield or walking back in to disappear.
Except he's so tall, he would be taller than the corn.
Man, I need Bigfoot
Maybe
to break
not,
my hair. Look at this picture.
That's not the way that the Bigfoots look, but he's not quite so stylized. But when you're talking about room, though, that's what. And I realize we're running over time now, but that's the thing that, now speaking a little more skeptically now. If you're looking at the Pacific Northwest, I mean, and I'm assuming most listeners of this podcast are familiar with the story of D.B. Cooper, because it's just so it's as weird as anything. You have a guy who parachuted into this wilderness. None of the money has ever made its way back to the Federal Reserve, so he's almost certainly still out there. They've been looking for him for 50 years. They scoured the area after the skyjacking, and they never found him. I think when they were looking for it, they found like 2 other plane crashes. That terrain, that's where there's like a glimmer of hope for Bigfoot belief. If he's out there anywhere, he's hiding in there. It's just I mean, if you get lost in there, you might not come out, buddy. You might have a real problem.
Yeah.
There's a place for Bigfoot to hide. And if you look at that map again of where the Bigfoot sightings are, they're in the valleys of Nebraska. You can watch your dog run away for 3 days. Yeah, if Bigfoot's hiding there, he's doing. He or she, the Patterson film is ostensibly the female. They are the Bigfoot and their brothers and sisters are doing an excellent job of doing it in Nebraska.
Maybe Bigfoot's a shapeshifter.
That is part of the indigenous lore.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Also part of the erotica lore on
God,
Amazon.
no. On that note, we are stopping the cut. We are stopping the podcast now.
What worries me is how Seth
I'm
knows
not
that.
That's enough.
Yeah, there's
I told you that's where the money is.
There's some Ichniki stories that probably don't want to tell on this podcast. So, all right.
We'll do a special after dark episode for that, Stu.
Yeah.
No
Ugh.
problem.
All right.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. We hope you'll check us out at galacticdriftwood.space. And you can check out our partner podcasters if you go to Synergy Nation Network, which is SYN nation.net. And you can find out all kinds of cool partner podcasts like Go RPGs and the Weekly Geekly and many more. So you might find something out there that you like, as well as, unlikely better than, but at least as well as you like Galactic Driftwood for sure. So, anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll look forward to talking to you again next week. Have a good week, y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.